Other than air, water is the most important thing we need to live. Having safe, pure, good-tasting water while on the road, it's easy if you have the right equipment and do it right. In my opinion, the wet bay is one of the most important areas in the entire RV. In the last 18 months, I've spent a lot of time, effort, and money wasted trying to figure out how to get my wet bay and my water right. But now I must say, I love our wet bay. So today, I'm going to cover how we finally got our water and our wet bay right. Coming up on RV Street. Okay, let's get right to it. I know this is kind of a long video, but this subject is important. When we lived in our house, getting water, filtering our water, purifying our water, and protecting our plumbing, it was easy. When you live in a house, the whole plumbing industry is geared towards the home. But when you move into an RV, everything about water changes. You're constantly hooking up and disconnecting to different water supplies. You get water from hundreds of different places. Every water supply that you go to, hundreds of people have already touched and handled that equipment, and it could pose a health threat. Everywhere you go to get water, the hardness is going to be different, the pressure is going to be different, and pollutants will be different. And the plumbing in your RV is a whole lot different than it was in your house. And you have to consider protecting your plumbing in the event you get caught in a cold weather situation. You do not want your plumbing to freeze. Many RVers will just approach this water situation as maybe just taking an inline filter, putting it on a spigot, attaching their hose, and that's it. Or they may just put a filter underneath the sink, and that's good for them. But Joni and I, we were full timing now. We're not going on weekends. We are constantly on the road, and we want to make sure that no matter where we get our water, it's going to be pure, it's going to be toxic free, it's not going to hurt our RV, and it's going to taste good. So today in this video, I'm going to share with you how we addressed all these concerns by using the right equipment and the right procedures to stay safe. And since we're talking about water, I want to touch quickly on the sewer hoses. Our sewer hoses are not stored in the wet bay. I built some exterior metal tubes that are mounted up under the chassis in the back of the motorhome. Those two tubes will store 30 feet of sewer hoses for those long reach areas. These tubes are not only ventilated, but they keep the sewer hoses away from contaminating anything else. But regardless of how you store your hoses, please do not store your sewer hoses in your wet bay. So come on, let's go to where it all starts, where we get our water. Okay, so here we are at the water spigot and the water source. And the first thing I do before I hook up anything is I have a 4-part cleaning solution that I put in this bottle. I put water, bleach, soap, and alcohol. It's kind of my own little concoction here. But when we first arrive, before I hook anything up, I just spray all over this entire area. The handle, the spigot, everything around here. You never know what's been handled there, and I want to make sure before I hook up my water hoses, that's all clean. The next thing I do is I attach the Y, my brass Y. So I screw the brass Y onto the main spigot. The next thing I do after that is this whole piece, I keep this piece here, my regulator and my Camco, this is all one piece. I screw it up into there, onto the Y. And from that point forward, from here all the way to the motorhome, is all quick disconnects. I can't put a quick disconnect here, so that's why I leave all of this solid. It's really important to have a water pressure regulator here. You never know what you're going to be finding, what kind of water pressure is going to be at a campground. It could be any amount of pressure. This is going to protect your motorhome or RV from overpressure. Usually running pressure between 50 and 60 psi is perfect. If you go beyond that, if you went and hooked up to a water source, and let's say it was 80 or 90 or whatever, you'd be running a big risk and maybe doing damage to your lines. You just don't want that much pressure. 60 pounds. So this regulates it. You can turn this handle here. I usually, as you can see right now, I'm running a little over 40 pounds, about 45 pounds or so. I like to keep it a little more than that, but this particular park just doesn't have, if I have a lot of power, a lot of pressure, I'll crank this and I'll make this to 60 pounds, but I can't get 60 pounds where I am right now. Okay, well, here we are at my wet bay, and I'm going to be having a cup of coffee here while we go over this, so if you hear me drinking it, that's what I'm doing. I actually cleared out my wet bay to shoot this video so you can clearly see the things that we're going to talk about. But normally my wet bay looks like this. Everything that involves water is in this area. That way I'm not hunting around in other parts of the motorhome or in other storage bays looking for stuff. It's all right here. So let's talk about insulation. The wet bay shell, or the box itself. Now in some RVs they have heated wet bays to protect everything in the winter. Most don't, but some do. Ours didn't. And remember, we are full-timers. We do not winterize our RV, and we don't put it in storage for the winter and put antifreeze through the lines and all that. We don't do that. That's a whole different process to protect your wet bay if you use your RV part-time and that's how you store it for winter. The whole key to traveling around the country year-round is to follow the weather, right? You're always trying to be where the weather is nice. But as we all know, things happen and don't always go according to plan. And I do not want to get caught in cold weather event like we did last year in Texas. I just want to be prepared and not worry myself sick about getting my wet bay frozen, causing me a lot of grief and money to repair it. Now, some people are going to think what I've done here is a little overkill, and that's okay. But all it would take is one really cold event and not being prepared, and that could threaten the integrity of my wet bay, and I just don't want to take that chance. So, as I showed you here, usually a wet bay is this hard plastic shell. It's great for cleaning, but it doesn't insulate very well. So the first thing I did was insulate the outside here, all the way around. The bottom, the back, the sides, everything, all on the outside. I covered it with 2 layers of R-Max blue board that I got at Home Depot, and that gave me about an R8 insulation value outside. Then I taped all the edges and seams with foil tape. Then I bought 3 cans of 3M professional grade rubberized undercoating. This stuff is awesome. I just sprayed it on there and it just clung to that blue board and totally waterproofed the outside. In case you're wondering how I attached that blue board to this shell, I used long bolts and fender washers, which you can see here and here and here, and there's about a half a dozen of them where I took bolts, washers, came through the blue board, drilled a hole through here, more fender washers and a wing nut So now I don't have to worry about, with this being sprayed with this rubberized 3M product, as we're running underway and rain's getting underneath there or whatever, I don't have to worry about it. It's all totally waterproof. Also up here on the door, on the inside of the wet bay door, I also put a piece of this our Max Blue board. So even the door, when it comes down, you know, those doors are not very thick, but just to protect that, you know, the cold chill and the wind coming through and everything, I did that door also. Next, I insulated all the pipes, as you can see, the main exposed pipe. So all up and behind here, you have all the lines that connect to a manifold, and that manifold distributes the water throughout the motorhome. So you have all your lines going to the shower and to the sinks and to the toilet and all those different places. So I insulated that whole entire manifold up underneath there with a regular fiberglass material, like down here. This is an R19. So I put R19 all up in there to protect that manifold, and then put it in these other empty cavities that you can see here. And also way back up in here, there's some cavities where I put R19, and then put the foam sleeves. This is just like what you would use at your house. Use the foam insulation sleeves, some foil tape, and so forth. I'm going to go over this area later, but I took the insulation off of that area so I can show you what I did there and what that's for. Lastly, now that I have the outside insulated, the inside pipes insulated, when it's actually winter time, I take this shop light here, and I just reach up underneath and I clamp it up inside back there, run my extension cord back through here, and run it to an extension cord. This has a 100-watt incandescent bulb, and with that on and everything insulated, this has been tested up to 9 degrees. It was 9 degrees outside for a long time, many hours, and this wet bay was 48 degrees. And the reason I know that is right up here I have a system. This is an Accurite remote temperature gauge. You get a monitor that goes inside the motorhome and 3 of these remote sensors. So I keep one of these right up here, and I actually zip tie it up here, but I wanted to show you what it looked like. And then I put another one in the refrigerator, and that way, sitting on a couch inside or whatever I'm doing inside, I can just glance over at that monitor, and I can see what the temperature is out here in the wet bay and in refrigerator. Now, if it does get really cold, if I know that a cold front is coming, if it's going to get, you know, if it's 30 degrees or so, it's only going to be that way for a few hours, you know, I don't worry about it too much. But if it's going to get 28 or below for a long period of time, in addition to this here, I just disconnect my water. I turn the water off at the spigot. I disconnect the hose. I drain the water out of the hose. And I also disconnect my water softener and put that into the motorhome so we don't have to worry about anything freezing. So that covers the insulating part of the wet bay. One of the mistakes I made in the beginning was I bought cheap box store type quick disconnects. And they don't seal, they crack, they're a waste of time, and a lot of wasted effort and money. So I'm going to highly recommend. It took me a while to get through the process of using, you know, let's try these, let's try those. Nothing worked, so I finally ended up finding these high precision, these are machined brass quick disconnects. I love these things. I have about 8 pairs of them. I have them on every hose here and at the other end, which you'll see in a little bit, but on the ends of all my hoses, up here in the filters, the going into the motorhome, back there on my auxiliary hose connector there, on my softener, my water softener, everywhere. And I really wish I would have bought these from the beginning. It would have saved me a lot of grief and money. I did try a different type after I went through all the plastic ones that were totally junk. I did try a brass type of quick disconnect, but they failed and didn't seal either. So I finally came across these, and I'm going to put links down below for these, but I'm going to tell you, these things are just awesome. These also have kind of a proprietary little seal in there. You can't go and put your typical hose rubber rings in there to seal. They have their own little special ring that goes in there. So when you buy these, make sure you buy an extra little pack of rubber washers there, and that way you'll have everything that you need, you know, for years to come. You cannot buy these in stores, and you can't buy the washers in stores either. Okay, next, the hoses. I've gone through 3 sets of different kinds of drinking water hoses, and every one of them has failed. They lasted maybe 2-3 months, and then they started bulging in areas and leaking at the fittings. It was very frustrating, and again, wasting money. So I finally came across the RV filter store. I really wish I would have known about their products to begin with, but I guess better late than never. They sell everything I needed and that you need, and their customer service is fantastic. What's so cool about their hoses, and this is them here, you can see I have white, it's a white hose. I got them coming everywhere, from the spigot to the filters, from the filters to the softener, out of the softener into the motorhome, and that way our whole entire motorhome has been filtered and softened throughout. So no matter where we use water in the motorhome, it's all been treated and softened. But what's really cool about their hoses is you can, when you go online, you can have them made, custom made, to the exact length you want. And I just love that. You don't have all this extra hose laying around, and you know, you're trying to go from here to here, and all you need is like maybe 3 or 4 feet, but you have to buy a 10-foot minimum. You know, when you go and get it either somewhere else online or a box store or whatever. But anyway, those hoses just don't work. So you can get custom made length lines. They're made of a durable PVC compound that's rated for 200 PSI. They won't kink, they won't bulge, and you can get them with brass or stainless steel fittings. So since I decided to put brass quick disconnects, I went ahead and used the lead-free brass hose connectings too. I just love these. I have not had one single problem. I've had this whole system here and these hoses for well over a year with these quick disconnects and everything. Not one single leak, not one single bulge. Okay, so next, I also bought and installed their 2-stage filter system. They call it their essential system. But it comes with this bracket, and these two, they have them in jumbo and normal size. These are the normal size. I didn't have the room to put jumbos, but when I decided I really needed to do this, put a filter system in here, I had to carefully just measure where all this was going to go perfectly, where my supply hose was easy to get to. I had clearance to be able to mount the bracket. I still had access to my wastewater pump switch here. And you just got to really strategically figure out exactly where it's going to go. Then I drilled the holes, mounted the bracket, and then it's just a matter of putting the filters on. Now in these filter canisters, you have 2. This is the way they set up in here. So this is coming, as you saw earlier when I did where the water comes from the spigot, it goes through that first blue Camco and filter. And the reason I do that, that's my sacrificial filter. Really don't need that, as I said, but I use that because that makes this one last longer. So the water comes from that filter up through here into the first filter, which is the SETI filter. This just gets the big particles. Then here is the 5 micron filter inside here. So by the time it comes out here and goes to the water softener, it's already been filtered 3 times. 2 SETIs and a carbon 0.5 micron. And now it's being sent to the softener. So what my schedule is every year is I buy 4 each of these, 8 total. And I have to recharge my softener every 3 months. So every 3 months I do everything at one time. I like to work smart, not hard. So every 3 months I come back here, shut my water off, and I charge, regenerate my softener. I change out the SETI, I change out this, I change out my Camco inline, put everything back up. 45 minutes later, I'm good to go for another 3 months. This one here is a 0.5 micron, and it removes chlorine, taste, odor, VOCs, and it reduces lead and heavy metals. These filters, they're rated to last longer, but it really depends on how you travel and where you go, what the kind of water that you're using. Some water is very hard, it's got a lot of debris in it, and they won't, you may have to change them out a lot, sooner than what they're rated for. But that's why I've chosen 3 months. 3 months seems to be that magic sweet spot that no matter where we are, no matter what kind of water we're using, and these things are not that expensive. I just go ahead and change them, and I just don't have to worry about it. Okay, so here we are, and I want to go over why I put this auxiliary hose adapter here. I did it right after the water pump. I put another brass Y here, and the reason I did that is many times when you go to a campground, you can lose all water pressure. I always carry around 1/3 of a tank of fresh water for these kinds of situations. It doesn't matter whether we're driving or we're sitting in a camp. I've always got at least 1/3 of a tank. Sometimes we lose water at a campground because of a storm, or their pumps go out, or they're doing maintenance or something like that on their system. Whatever the case, we will always still have water on board. So this Y connector allows me to hook up an auxiliary hose to wash things outside if I need it. So I can just grab my spare hose that I have. It's not a drinking water hose, but it's one that I use to wash the car, or I may need it for outside for some reason. I just snap it right into here, run my hose out the water bay door, turn that valve, turn on the water pump, and now I've got 3 gallons a minute being pumped out through out the hose. But the main reason I installed this Y is it allows me to hook up a hose to it, and then that goes to my portable electric power washer and my soap cannon. And then I can wash our RV anywhere without outside water or power source. So if the RV really gets nasty and dirty, sometimes campgrounds won't let you wash on the ground. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. But when traveling, if it really gets filthy, I can stop at any big parking lot, fire up the generator to give me power for the extension cord, hook up that power washer to the hose, and man, I'm good to go. The wet bay water pump, like I said, it puts out 3 gallons per minute. My electric power washer needs 1.5 gallons per minute, so I have plenty of pressure. There's probably some of you that love to see that in action. I do plan on doing a video on how I use that power washer, but right now I don't. So that's the main reason that I put this here. I hardly ever use it. It's kind of a redundant backup system is what it's really for. Okay, so now on to the water softener. We bought on the go double standard size water softener at 16,000 grain. And here's the reason why. We have friends that we met last year, actually about a year and a half ago in Texas. They had an RV, a fifth wheel, that they had only had about a year and a half, going on 2 years. And all of a sudden they started having major problems with their water. Their hot water heater went out. They had plugged up water lines. Their faucets in the sink in the bathroom was not working right. They didn't know what the heck was going on. So they called a mobile tech out there, and lo and behold, everything was totally plugged up with calcium and magnesium from all. They've been really exposed to a lot of hard water over the past 18 months or so. And it just did some really big damage to their plumbing lines, to their hot water heater, and so on and so on. Bottom line, it cost $4,500 of work for them to run new lines, replace their hot water heater element. It just went on and on. And the guy told them that if they would have had a water softener in line, they could have avoided all this problem. So this is why we have this. This is a very important piece of equipment. Hardness in the water in your RV is the biggest problem, not only to your plumbing, but to your appliances. It's the enemy number one. And this is why we chose to deliver fully filtered water, fully softened water to the entire motorhome. So everything in your motorhome or your RV, like an ice maker, your shower, your sink faucets, your toilet, all the valves, plumbing connections, all the washers and hoses, and your hot water heater, even water to make coffee. Treating your water and then removing the damaging magnesium and calcium from hard water by sending it through a portable water softener before it goes to the RV will be one of the smartest things you do and one of the best upgrades you'll ever make. Now, On the Go makes 3 different sizes. This is the middle one. This is the double standard size, and in my opinion, it's the best option for most RVers because it lasts a long time between recharging. It's easy to move around. You can just pick it up right here. The resin that comes inside here lasts 7 years. Each time you have to regenerate this, it'll last about 1,500 gallons. And we have found, like I said, it'll about 4 times a year. We do this every 3 months, and we do our filters every 3 months. So to regenerate this, it takes 2 standard little cans of non-iodized salt. You can get those at Walmart for 99 cents, and about 45 minutes. So every 3 months I regenerate, change filters. Every 6 months I clean and flush out my hot water heater. This will keep that calcium building up on the heating element. It's very easy to do. I'm going to do a video on that the next time. I just cleaned my hot water heater just a couple weeks ago, but the next time I do that, I will do a video and show you how easy that is to do and the proper way to do that. This here, I highly recommend. If you're full-timing and traveling, living in your RV, this, my friends, is a must. Well, I know this was a bit long, but I wanted to make sure that we covered everything in detail. If you have any questions or comments or ways that you've improved your wet bay or water system, please comment below. We'd love to hear what you have to say, and then that way we all can learn from each other. If you want to stop wasting time and money and effort on products that don't work, and you want to improve your wet bay and water system, I've provided links below. Using those links below is a great way to get exactly the right products, add them to your gear, and it supports our channel. It's like a tip jar, but it doesn't cost you anything extra. Okay, well that's it for now. Until next time, this is RV Street. Stick around.